Let me ask you something. What if the most powerful reason a customer chooses your product has almost nothing to do with what it actually does? We're going to dig into this idea of identity triggers. These are the deep, kind of invisible motivations that are really pulling the strings on our decisions and our brand loyalty.
I mean, just think about it for a second. So many products out there do the exact same thing. Functionally, they're identical. And yet, we develop these fierce, sometimes irrational loyalties. Why? Well, the answer, it turns out, often has very little to do with what a product does and a whole lot more to do with who we want to be.
And this gets us to the heart of the matter. Identity triggers. They operate at the very, very top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We're not talking about food or shelter here. We're talking about the fundamental human drive for self-realization, for respect, for belonging. And when a brand can tap into that, it stops selling a product and starts selling a piece of an identity. Now, these triggers really break down into two main types. On one hand, you've got status triggers. This is all about signaling our place in the social hierarchy, where we fit in. And on the other hand, you have personality triggers, which are all about expressing what makes us unique individuals. Let's tackle the power of status first. You know, that drive for status is so primal, so powerful. It can be used to solve problems that even kings couldn't fix with an official order. There's this incredible story from 18th century Prussia that shows you just how potent this force really is. So get this. King Frederick the Great is staring down a famine. He's got a solution, the potato. But his people think potatoes are like demonic. They refuse to eat them. So he issues a royal decree. And you know what happens? Nothing. They completely ignore him. But his next move? This was pure psychological genius. He didn't try to change the potato. No, he changed its story. He declared it a royal vegetable, planted it in his own personal fields, and then had guards pretend to protect it. All of a sudden, the potato wasn't peasant food. It was a high-status treasure, something valuable enough to steal from the king himself. And they did. And that brilliant move is a perfect real-world example of what economists call the Veblen effect. It's this idea that we often buy things not for what they do, but for what they say about us, what they signal about our social standing. This one principle, right here, is the engine that drives the entire luxury goods market. And Veblen himself just lays it out perfectly. He says it's not enough to just have wealth or power. You have to show it. It has to be put on display because people only give you that respect, that esteem, based on visible proof. And that's where conspicuous consumption comes in. It's the language of wealth. And this is exactly the playbook modern luxury brands use. They aren't really selling you a watch, they're selling you a ticket to a higher spot on the social ladder. I mean, that Krug tagline from the 80s is a masterclass. For most, Krug will remain out of reach. That's not an invitation, it's a velvet rope, it's a barrier. But what happens when the trigger isn't about fitting into the group, but about standing out from it? Okay, so this next trigger, it's a completely different animal. This isn't about climbing a social ladder or fitting in. This is about that deep personal need to express the values and beliefs that make us who we are. The need to be me. Let's go to the 1950s. Betty Crocker launches what seems like a surefire hit. It's an instant cake mix. You just add water. Boom, done. It's designed to save time and effort for busy homemakers. The business logic? Absolutely flawless. And yet, the product completely bombed. When they dug into why, the insight they found was just stunning. The problem wasn't the cake, it was psychological. The mix was too easy. For the homemaker of that era, whose identity was so wrapped up in the effort and care they put into their family, making a cake this easily felt like cheating. It actually made them feel guilty. So the solution was incredibly subtle but absolutely profound. They changed the recipe. They made the customer add a fresh egg. Now, this had nothing to do with making the cake taste better. It was all about improving the customer's feeling of involvement. That one tiny act of participation was just enough to make the product align with their identity as a caregiver. And guess what? Sales skyrocketed. But you have to ask, right? Was this Betty Crocker thing just a fluke? A one-off, or did it point to something much deeper about how products and our own self-perception interact? Well, let's look at another case from the exact same time period that really confirms this lesson. So a researcher named Mason Hare designs this brilliant experiment. He creates two shopping lists, and they are identical in every way but one, the coffee. One list has Nescafé instant coffee on it, and the other has Maxwell House ground coffee.
That's it. Then he showed these lists to people and just asked them to describe the woman who wrote each one. The results were, well, they were staggering. Nearly half the people, 48%, described the woman buying the Nescafé instant coffee as lazy. The woman buying the ground coffee? Only 4% said the same. I mean, think about that. A single item on a shopping list completely changed how people perceived a person's entire character.
And it gets even worse. She wasn't just lazy, she was also seen as a poor planner, a spendthrift. And in a pretty shocking 16% of the responses, she was even called a bad wife. Just like the cake mix, the convenience of instant coffee clashed hard with the dominant self-image of what a good, diligent homemaker was supposed to be back then. So, we've got these two powerful forces, right? The need to fit in, status, and the need to express our unique selves. But here's the most critical piece of the puzzle for any strategist. The rules for how you trigger them are always changing. You see, that Betty Crocker solution, adding the egg, it worked perfectly in the 1950s because it reinforced a very specific cultural identity. But if you tried that today, it might completely fail. Because in our current culture, convenience is often its own status symbol. It says your time is valuable. These identity needs, they aren't set in stone. They are constantly being shaped by culture and context. And really, that leads to the most important question for any business. The basic human needs for status and self-expression, those are timeless. They're not going anywhere. But how people express them is always in motion. So the ultimate takeaway is this. Understanding the current cultural context isn't just one part of your strategy. It's the whole foundation. It's the entire game.